The truth is Donald Trump wants Democrats to win, and I think he's actively sabotaging the GOP.
5 stories, no BS.
Pete Hegseth went to the Hill this week and put an official number on the Iran war, $37.5 billion. But that's not the number that is worrying Republicans. It's that 3 more American service members died in just the past week after this war was supposed to be over, after we were told that there was a ceasefire. And independent estimates say the real cost isn't $37.5 billion. It's more like $100 billion.
It is becoming a huge liability for us right now. We have to go home and campaign in front of voters. And let's be honest, the images of dead American soldiers is not the visual that we want to have right now. Every prediction about the cost of this war has been wrong. Hegseth's testimony was an unmitigated disaster. I mean, he responded with arrogance and evasion. He looked way over his head. He looked like a deer in headlights when they asked him to reconcile simple statements that he's made versus the truth. I'm going to go out on a limb. I know he's playing to an audience of 1, but my prediction is Hegseth will be fired because someone has to blame for this complete and total disaster that has happened. Trump will not admit defeat, and this is creating a bigger problem than even just an election loss.
So you think that this has gone this far? Internally, Republicans are worried enough about the situation with the Iran war that they're going to need a scapegoat.
How do you mess this up this badly? Iran is not some big powerhouse. This was supposed to be quick. This was supposed to be easy, but we've run out of missiles. We've run out of money. Someone is to blame, and it's going to be Hegseth.
What did you make of his testy exchange with Michigan Senator Gary Peters this week? There was accusations of, you've got Trump derangement syndrome. You're a towel. No, you're a towel. That kind of thing worked for Pam Bondi right up until the moment that it didn't, and it began to be seen as a political liability. Are you saying that Hegseth is entering Bondi territory?
He's in Bondi territory. He's built a house in Bondi territory, and he's getting ready to be kicked out of this thing. He is hurting Republicans. He is not qualified. He looks way over his head, and this war has been a disaster. It is a lead brick tied around the foot of every single Republican that has to campaign on it, and somebody is going to have to pay for it, and it's going to be Hegseth. Trump's election bombshell last week was a dud. There was nothing there. His major revelation was that China acquired a complete voter registration list. Now, look, it doesn't take great levels of espionage to get that. All it takes is a credit card. Or you could go to the Board of Elections and get most of that stuff for free. Complete dud, complete waste of time. And you called it by suggesting that networks should not cover this. But the big revelation this week was in New Jersey, where 6,600 illegal immigrants through a software glitch ended up on the voter files. I see this as a big deal, not because it's proof of a stolen election. It's proof that there was a breakdown in the system of things that are not supposed to happen, and it calls election integrity into question.
What happened this week was like the explosion of the planet Alderaan. 1 million voices of Democratic campaign professionals suddenly cried out and were suddenly silenced. This was literally the talking point balloon from the sky that Republicans were waiting for. The only thing that could possibly, it's like manna from heaven for Fox News. Now, I could point out that this was, as you said, a software glitch that admitted some 6,000 or so people who are non-citizens onto the voter rolls. Only 400 of them ever cast a vote. Their registration was split pretty evenly among Democrats, Republicans, and independents. And there is zero evidence that these 400 votes that were cast ever changed an election. But the problem is, it took me a while to say all that. And in politics, the longer you talk, the more you're losing. The nuance gets lost. And for Republicans, for the Trump White House, it doesn't matter that the SAVE Act wouldn't have done anything to fix this situation. It wouldn't have, because, as you said, it was a software glitch. It's not these people trying to register to vote and needing to show some kind of identification in order to be able to. So the SAVE Act has nothing to do with this. But that all gets lost in the Jersey Shore wash. And become the Republican talking point that you will see ad nauseum from Trump and from Fox News, as if those are different entities, till the end of time. And Democrats are just beside themselves that this massive hole that Trump had dug for them, he's somehow been thrown a rope ladder in the form of this awful, stupid story out of New Jersey.
If Fox News isn't talking about socialism, it's talking about illegal immigrants registered to vote. The next question becomes, is that just the tip of the iceberg?
What do you call it, Matt, when a whole bunch of Republicans get together to have a conversation with the dead? I said at the top of the show that it sounds an awful lot like a seance. Another way of putting it is that's essentially what Republican House members did this week by passing a bill that is already dead. It's already dead on arrival in the Senate. It is another reconciliation bill. I won't get into all the details, but this is a sneaky congressional maneuver that allows bills to bypass the filibuster in the Senate, and House Republicans passed a reconciliation bill with $95 billion in funding, most of it for the Department of Defense for the Iran war, some SAVE Act provisions.
This is a simple messaging issue. They are going on recess. They have to confront the voters. This is a talking point. We have to look like we tried. And that's what everything we are seeing in the House happening right now. They go on a 6-week vacation. They don't come back until the middle of September before they do anything else. So it doesn't matter if you actually do anything. You just want to do something.
I'll say that from our side of the aisle among Democrats, our version of this is what Rahm Emanuel used to say when he was the third-ranking member of the House for the Democrats. And he was advising us as we were heading into the 2008 and 2010 cycles, when you're in political dire straits, the thing you have to do is get caught trying. That's essentially what House Republicans were trying to do this week, give themselves a talking point, funding for the Pentagon, but also tucked in there $12 to $13 billion of farm relief. Obviously, farmers getting crushed by high fertilizer prices caused by Trump's Iran war, caused by Trump's tariffs. So you're giving something to your Midwest Republican members to go home and say, I fought for this. I really super got caught trying. Thoughts and prayers for the rest of you.
Todd Blanche could be in trouble. Republicans hold a 12 to 10 Judiciary Committee majority, and Democrats are all going to vote against Blanche. So that means Blanche can't afford a single Republican to vote against him, which means there are two Republicans in the spotlight, and perhaps you've heard of both of them, Thom Tillis and John Cornyn.
Todd Blanche should be in trouble. I don't think he really is. The Senate is littered with the corpses of Republicans who Trump has shivved to death and ended their career. You've talked about Tillis and Cornyn, and they have no incentive. They have no reason to carry any more water for Trump, and yet they seem to be. Now, to his credit, I guess somewhat, a tiny sliver of it, Cornyn has brought up an issue that is real. He wants to know for sure that this anti-weaponization fund maneuver is truly dead. And Tillis has said that he has concerns about the way Blanche has handled the Epstein case. That is a somewhat substantive objection, but really, it's sort of a transactional one. It's like, I need to get a little pound of flesh to give myself justification to vote for this. They've already steered billions of DOJ settlement dollars to Alaska to buy Lisa Murkowski's vote. Josh Hawley has raised concerns that the DOJ hasn't been going hard enough after abortion pill access by mail. This is a bunch of transactional moves from Republican senators that is obscuring the real underlying issue. This guy is freaking corrupt. He is dirty. He is completely subverting the role of an independent judiciary. He's the one who's actually carrying out, as Trump's henchman, Trump's orders to weaponize the Department of Justice, the full legal force of the federal government, to go after Trump's political enemies in a way that would make Richard Nixon blush. It's absolutely disgusting. He is absolutely unqualified. He is absolutely not someone who should ever step foot in the Department of Justice building ever again.
I think the fact that we're having this conversation even shows just how much Donald Trump is approaching lame duck status.
Trump's own White House is telling reporters on the record that his engagement with House Republicans on the midterms is at zero. His super PAC is sitting on $400 million. He spent none of it well, almost none of it on Republican candidates. Now he's slapping 50% tariffs on Canada and 100% tariff on generic drugs, which could push prices up, right as Republicans are begging him to focus on giving them something, anything to use in the approaching midterm elections.
The truth is Donald Trump wants Democrats to win, and I think he's actively sabotaging the GOP.
Well, that's a hot take. Why?
Look, he doesn't need them to legislate. They've proven ineffective. He can just do executive orders. What Trump needs is a villain. He needs a reason to fundraise. He doesn't care if he's been impeached. Been there, done that. It doesn't matter again. The biggest thing he is worried about, biggest thing, is that they're going to get to the depths of his selling the presidency for him and his kids. It is just simpler for him. It gives him someone to campaign against. He has zero interest in being a president. He only wants to campaign. He only wants to raise money, and he only wants to blame someone else. I think he would be happier if Republicans weren't in charge because it makes him the victim every single time.
That's a really interesting take. And the only note of caution is the one that you brought up, which is that while members of his administration, while his family aren't really legally vulnerable because he has the pardon power and he himself is immune per the Supreme Court. Thank you very much, John Roberts. There is the potential for this corruption issue to gain a head of steam and for Republicans to be tied to it for a long time. That could create a really long-term deficit. But he probably doesn't care about that too, because it doesn't matter to him. He just wants to walk away with the money.